Democrats in Congress are making a big push this month to send two major priorities to President Biden's desk: the bipartisan infrastructure deal and a massive $3.5 trillion budget filled with
Manchin said 1.5 trillion tops unless you can outbid the fossil fuel industry contributions.
progressive priorities. All that hit a roadblock after my next guest called for a, quote, strategic pause on that bill, saying the price was too high. And with the 50-50 Senate, Democrats can't even lose one vote. And West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin joins me now. Senator, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. So let's talk about the op-ed that you wrote. You said you cannot support the $3.5 trillion bill until you get, quote, greater clarity on why that amount is necessary. Most of your colleagues have been trying to give you that clarity over the past couple of weeks since you wrote that. Your party leader, Chuck Schumer, says he's moving, quote, full speed ahead with this package. Will he have your vote?
And that's fine. He can't. He will not have my vote on 3.5, and Chuck knows that. And we've talked about this. We've already put out 5.4 trillion, and we've tried to help Americans in every way.
Has Joe Manchin received the breakdown in how much money this 5.4 trillion went to liquidity swaps? You might not know what a liquidity. You might not know what a liquidity swap is. They're new instruments that were part of the QE process, the quantitative easing. Quantitative easing to taper down the high risk of the economy, i.e. the stock market, from completely going bananas. It was a way to stabilize our stock market, to maintain our general economy. And that is the reason why there was $1.5 trillion initially injected into the stock market. And that's the reason why the Fed has been doing 120 billion to between 120 and 180 billion dollars worth of stock and bond buybacks from April 2020 to now. So whenever Joe Manchin says we've done everything that we can for the American people, he's wrong. He's lying. The amount of money that has gone directly into Wall Street compared to what has been done to help the average American worker, well, let's see. About half of the 5.4 trillion has gone directly into Wall Street or has gone directly into the pockets of big corporate executives. Couple that information with the fact that we had how many stimulus checks and gave a direct cash deposit of up to, what is it, $5,000 tops to the American working people and their families. And Joe Manchin has the audacity to go onto CNN and say that Congress did everything that they could to assist your average American worker who was deeply impacted by the COVID-19 related economic downturn. I think the fuck not. When is Manchin up for election? 2024. Is that per month or cumulative? Per month. Per month. I wish somebody would confront him with this information. That no, Congress did not do everything that they could to help the most vulnerable among us. The exact opposite, in fact. So that means he got elected in 2018? Yes, that's what that means. Joe Manchin's daughter can be up for investigation whenever, though.
we possibly can. And a lot of the help that we put out there is still there, and it's going to run clear until next year, 2022. What's the urgency? What's the urgency that we have? It's not the same urgency that we have with the American Rescue Plan. We got that out the door quickly. That was about $2 billion, $2 trillion. And on top of that, all the things we put out with the CARES package, everything leading up to that. So we have done an awful lot, and there's still an awful lot of people that need help, but you have 11 million jobs that aren't filled right now.
I mean, Jim Manchin definitely does pull some numbers to evidence how all of the money that went out to help the economy didn't go much further than the main bitches in charge. The shareholders, the executives, the board members, the CEOs. But to break this down, the amount of money that was set aside for the rental assistance program, that $46.5 billion, there is no exact way to quantify just how under budget that program is and the shortfalls of that budget. But based on some calculations that I have been doing and the computing that others have done, the amount of money set aside to assist every single renter who is now behind on rents doesn't not need to just be doubled to 80 billion. It needs to be quadrupled in order to ensure that every single renter who owes back rent to their landlord can pay back all of their outstanding rent or their rent arrears to stay sheltered in place. Which again points to just how grossly inadequate Congress's response has been in assisting the American working class. Do you talk about world politics sometimes?
Million people are still unemployed. Something's not matching up. Don't you think we ought to hit the pause and find out the vulnerability that we have, Dana, right now?
Amy, do you happen to have a sister that lives in Seattle? I do not. Pointing out the fact that we have a lot of job openings, but looking at what those job openings entail, they are minimum wage positions. They might be part-time. They might be specifically part-time to not offer benefits. And right now, because of just how underfunded some of these programs and this congressional package was when it came to addressing the material and financial needs of the American working class, the American working class who right now lost their jobs and are no longer collecting unemployment, they're thinking to themselves, I can't just accept a job that pays me minimum wage because of all of the outstanding amount of money that I owe to my debt collectors. Right now, American working class members are in a real pickle because they know how much money they owe and they can't go back to whatever they were making before COVID-19. They need to be making more, and they are not able to fulfill their obligation to their landlord or make good on their credit card bill or get back to paying their student loans because of the amount of money that they owe. And they are now indebted to the point where same old minimum wage isn't going to cut it. And that is the exact opposite of what most employers are willing to provide right now. In fact, you can bet your bottom dollar that these wages will remain stagnant for as long as they can. And working conditions will remain unsafe because employers are going to try to spread the responsibilities of their employees so thin that they'll be working double or even triple for what they are owed. And their productivity will inevitably rise because employers are looking to shortchange their employees to get back to where they were in terms of revenue prior to the hit that they took before COVID-19. Or they are trying to get back to their revenue, whatever revenue, year over year revenue they were making before they took a hit due to COVID-19. Until a politician says, every single politician probably has a poor cousin. Or a poor family member that they know all too well. I don't think that they care. Just like most politicians know somebody who died from COVID-19, and that did not change their mind. That did not change their approach to managing COVID-19. Why the hell is he talking about a current unemployment rate when there is a 10-year investment program anyhow? This is nonsense talking. And make it so they know what they want to do through streaming? Wait, what? As long as they have all the benefits and full-time workers, more revenue plans and pensions, as well as healthcare? Well, they're not interested in trying to better the working conditions or wages for their employees. And think about all of the money that they've received. Think about all of the money that the airline industry received. Think about all of the money that big corporations took by utilizing the small business, the PPP loan program intended for small business. Think about how they stole from small business members, and then they still laid off or furloughed however many of their employees. They took the gains that they made from those grants and zero or low interest loans, and they just paid out their investors handsomely. I beg to differ? But what? What are you going to beg? Are you, it sounds like you're advocating for trickle-down economics. Is that right? You know what? You know what's really interesting about what happened? Do you know a youngin's intuition? Boy. So let me tell you about what happened during Ronald Reagan's tenure as president, and he advocated for trickle-down economics. He actually kind of like coined the term, right? There was actually the exact opposite of trickle-down economics. There was a huge transfer of wealth from the working class up to the top echelon of the 1%, and the rich actually took from the working class, the exact opposite of what was supposed to happen with trickle-down economics. So whenever you deregulate these corporations, they actually don't give back and they don't reinvest into their companies and don't better the lives of their workers and don't increase wages. They actually maintain stagnant wages as much as possible. They continue to cut corners as much as possible. That is to the detriment of their own workers, so that they can collect and hoard as much of their gains as possible for the executives and those at the top, to keep them and their entities, whoever they owe their responsibilities to from a fiduciary standpoint. They get the excess gains. They get the payouts. That was then, this is now, we know better now as you're telling me? You think that... You think that, corporations give a shit that the cat's out of the bag? They don't give a shit. Boy, I think it's a lot closer, but that's my opinion. What do you mean I think it's a lot closer?
Now, we don't know what happened with this COVID. It's awful coming back the way it is with a vengeance. We don't know about inflation. We know it's running rampant right now. I can tell you in West Virginia, inflation's running rampant. And on top of that, the challenges we're going to have, geopolitical challenges. Shouldn't we be prepared?
So
if inflation is running rampant in West Virginia and causing the cost of living to rise exponentially, shouldn't you try to find a way to increase the amount of wages for people in West Virginia to make up for this quote-unquote inflation that is supposedly occurring in West Virginia? You're actually dumb? Oh, hold on. Let them say their piece. No, let this person say what they want to say. You're actually dumb. No, go ahead. Explain how. Allow this person the opportunity to explain how I am dumb. You're not starving on the streets? Do I have to be starving on the streets to advocate for better material conditions so that nobody starves on the streets? Are you saying that because I am not right now actively starving on the street that my opinion is invalid? How's that? You're literally in an air conditioning unit using an amazing technology? Okay, again, how is this worse than the 1930s? Person is 14? Who knows? Do you think that every single person in the 1930s? Do you think that every single person in the 1930s was starving on the street? Oh, for fuck's sake, I wasn't chatting to you. Oh, sorry. Sometimes I forget that people come in here and don't add other people. They're not talking to the streamer. They're talking to another person.
I want to ask you about a lot of that, but are you saying it's the price tag, it's the timeline, both?
It's the urgency. Do we have the urgency to do what they're wanting to do in such a quick period of time?
But can you be specific? Okay, let's talk about the dollar sign.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific number in mind?
Here's a number you should be getting to. First of all, I have agreed to get on to the reconciliation because that's the time for us to make financial adjustments and changes. I thought the 2017 tax code and tax law, the way it was changed, was very, very, very unfair, and it was weighted to the wealthy.
So what's the number?
And the bottom line is what the number would be what's going to be competitive in our tax code. I believe that the corporate rate should be at 25, not 21.
But what's the overall number for the budget bill?
I think that you're going to have to look at it and find out what you're able to do through a reasonable, responsible way.
So then how do you know that it's not 3.5?
It's going to be at 1.
At least data pushes back a little bit. That's good.
So you think ballpark 1.5?
It's not going to be at 3.5, I can assure you. But with that,
I love how he's so confident. Like, you gotta check how this pans out. You're going to have to do your own reconciliation to see how much money is necessary to put into an infrastructure bill to make sure that we're not giving, too many opportunities to the American working class. Whenever Dan is like, well, look, give us a ballpark number. He's like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. You're going to have to figure that. Like, how can you be so confident that 3.5 trillion is just too much to improve our infrastructure, but also to offer jobs? This is a jobs program as much as an infrastructure bill and funding that will improve our own built environment. I don't understand how he could want to shortchange the American people and his own constituents who would most definitely benefit from this bill. And he's so confident that it's just too much. Like, he's not even good at refuting his own party's leadership. Which means that, yeah, he's going up against the grain to appease his donors. And he's not even equipped to argue his position. I almost thought he was going to say, you got to do your own research. I feel like he wanted to. Like, hey, Dana, why are you asking me all these questions? I don't know the answers to them. How am I supposed to know? All I know is that I was told to say no to 3.5 trillion. That's all I know.
Whatever it is, once you have a competitive tax code,
What's a competitive fucking tax code?
and then you should look at what the need is. What's the urgency and the need that we have?
And I want to get to that, but just because this is the thing that people consume. Do you have a ceiling?
My ceiling is this: the need of the American people, and for us to basically take in consideration inflation. No one's concerned about the debt. You know, our debt as of Friday was $28.7.5 trillion. And we're not even talking about that. No one's talking about that.
You just said 1.5. It sounds like 1.5.
I'm just
Liquidity
saying
swaps.
basically, well, I've looked at numbers. If we have a competitive tax code from a non-competitive, it doesn't help the working person. It was done in 2017. That's in the 1.5 range, okay? If that's where it is, shouldn't you be looking at what does it take now to meet the urgent needs that we haven't already met?
Okay, so let's talk about how this would be paid for. The White House Chief of Staff, Ron Klain, told me on this show last week that you are, quote, very persuadable on this budget bill because he says it will be paid for. It won't add to the debt. It won't add to inflation.
Well, if you're paying for it with inflated numbers from the standpoint, is the tax code, the numbers that they're wanting to pay for it, and the tax changes they want to make.
So, like, Joe Manchin literally thinks that inflation in this sense is the fact that we have reached 28 trillion in debt. And he is talking about inflated debt. He's talking about debt go up. He's talking about debt line go up. Line do be going up though? You know that there is a difference between our national debt and inflation? Like inflation from like a cost index perspective, you know, the cost of goods and services, those rates. Help someone remind him of that for the next defense budget. True.
Is that competitive? Does it keep us competitive or not? I believe there's some changes made that does not keep us competitive.
Meaning don't increase taxes on corporations?
I want to increase taxes on corporations. I've spoken to corporations.
So what specifically are you saying?
I want the wealthy to play their fair share. But if you're up higher to the point to where you are that can be competitive globally, then it's going to be counterproductive. Everyone's looking at this in a whole complete different way than I think maybe I am or other.
Competitive tax code in this case means how do we maintain our competitive nature on the global market system, from within the global market system. How do we ensure that we are passing the right legislation and appropriating the right amounts of congressional spending that will allow us to compete with China for corporate hegemonic control over the global market system. Somebody definitely told Joe Manchin to say that. Like, I believe that 100%. I have spoken to corporations. If inflation bad, then why use a method of fiscal policy through borrowing instead of taxing to finance? Because there is a symbiotic relationship between the government and corporations, and governments will not touch the excess wealth of corporations through a fiscal policy that does increase corporate taxes or increase the capital gains tax or apply an inheritance tax. All of that is because the government's not touching rich people's money. And the only way that we can fund some of these larger programs is to take on more debt or to, you know, turn on the money printer. Let it go. Brr. His phrasing suggested he wants corporations to have world power, but not necessarily the country. Yeah, he's not trying to better the lives of working people. That's exactly what he's attempting to achieve, which makes me believe that what he is trying to regurgitate right now is not something that came out of his own brain. Somebody literally told him what to say, and he's just repeating it.
People, or the people are just keeping quiet. The bottom line is, do we have the urgency to spend another $3.5 trillion right now? The most urgent thing that we have to do is get the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's gone left unattended for over 30 years, deferred maintenance throughout every part of our nation. That's the one. The president went out and campaigned on that. That's his bill. We worked it in a bipartisan way, got 19 Republicans to vote for it. That's the bill that should go out immediately.
Okay, and that's, you have another side of this negotiation and some of your fellow Democrats, which I want to get to in a second, but let's just stay on what they call here in Washington the pay-fors, how your fellow Democrats want to pay for this. They're looking at increasing the corporate tax rate, closing existing loopholes, raising taxes on wealthy Americans, trying to get money back from, get the IRS to get money back.
I agree with all of that. I agree with all of that.
And they say they can add that up to 3.5 and there will be not a dollar. This is what they're saying.
I understand, but we just
added to the debt.
Just disagree.
You just don't believe them?
No, I don't believe them. I'm just saying that those rates are not going to be competitive to find out the money. Here's the difference. They're looking for 3.5 trillion. I'm looking for a competitive tax rate. Okay, I want to make the adjustments and changes. They're looking for basically.
What does competitive tax rate mean? Can you
globally competitive? Then you have to be globally competitive.
Right,
you can't be.
But can you explain?
First of all, you can't be at 39% as far as capital gains. I said 28 all in. Okay, you can't be at 28 or 30 or more with a corporate net. I've said 25 all in, and I think that every corporation should pay a minimum of 15%. They should all pay something. I believe in that. But the bottom line is the need that we have. You understand they put no restrictions whatsoever, qualifications on any of this as means testing of the need of the people, the means testing. How many people have you had talk to you that said they're sending me checks? I don't know why. We've all heard that.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. And if it did, they're bootlickers and they should fucking fuck off. Nobody is fucking saying that. And if they are, they're just they have fallen so deeply down the Sigma grind set rabbit hole that they are right now trying to get their rocks off from torturing themselves because they think it's fucking sexy or something. I don't know, but I don't think you $27. Perfect time for a raid. I'm right now motherfucking Joe Manchin because I am sick to death of him being a corporate bootlicking shill. He is refusing to address the needs of his own constituents and the rest of the American working class because he is hell-bent on being the obstructionist, standing in the way of any real congressional spending project that would lead to the material betterment of every single American worker who needs better upward social mobility, needs better opportunities through wage increases, benefits, better working conditions. And Joe Manchin is over here saying we cannot tax the fuck out of rich assholes to get to that $3.5 trillion without having to make the money printer go any further. And Joe Manchin's over here saying, no, what we need is a competitive tax rate. We need to reform the 2017 tax code. I'm in favor of increasing the corporate tax rate, the capital gains tax, but I don't believe, based on no information that has been provided to me thus far, that by increasing these taxes will get us to the 3.5 trillion. And he keeps on just regurgitating these talking points over and over again to stand in the way of a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. There is no information that he has provided to counter this claim that, yes, if we increased the corporate tax rate and the capital gains tax, that would be enough money through this new implemented fiscal policy to get to that $3.5 trillion that is needed for our infrastructure bill. Joe Manchin is very quickly refuting that this will allow us to reach that 3.5 trillion and instead suggests that we just reform the tax code, see how much money we have left over, and then wait until people get back to work and address the disparity that we have right now with our unemployment and those who are right now still unemployed and the number of job openings. How can we force people to accept what jobs are available, make them take on 2008's working conditions and positions. Half of these jobs are probably part-time. Most of them won't offer benefits. Most of them are paying the bare minimum, which is minimum wage. And let's see how many people can go back to suffering before we try to implement an infrastructure bill that is also a jobs program. And see how people can just scrape by before we put any more trillion-dollar congressional spending into a very necessary program. I'm sorry, I've had it up to fucking hate 'em. But thank you, $27 for the raid, and welcome, raiders. How are you doing? Get on in here, raiders. Get on in here. Hi. Hi. Hello. We all hate Joe? Good. Thank you, Anonymous Cheer. That's wrong? And not a single fucking person in from the raid, hey, and not a single fucking person should ever say, why did I get this $1,200 stimulus check? I just don't know what I'm going to use with it. Bitch, if you got a $1,200 stimulus check, that means that by the government's measures, you were poor enough to get a check. That means you're not doing well enough to be refusing a government stimulus check, all right? You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of my god, that stand-up comedian. She did a Netflix special, but she was shitting on like the feminists, like the Rosie Riveter feminists. It was like, you know, we can do anything that men can do, women can do, and like fought for equality in the workplace, like the glass ceiling feminists. And she was like, bitch, shut up! Don't tell them the secrets. Like, obviously, not to the same degree, because if you really did qualify for a stimulus check, then you're not doing well enough to refuse the stimulus check. And you're giving everyone else a bad name who absolutely needed that stimulus check and then some, and now are at the risk of experiencing eviction and are behind on most of their payments. And I can't understand how much of a bootlicker you have to be to feel as though you just don't know what to do with this additional money that you have received. What the fuck is wrong with you? Donate it to your local mutual aid group. Fucking asshole.
Okay, I want to get to some of the specifics in this in a second, but you just said that you want to get
it's not even that much
the
money. No, it's
infrastructure
not.
bill that you helped to negotiate, a bipartisan infrastructure bill. It passed the Senate. You want to get it
And the
through
White House was very much
and the White House
every day.
But
Thank you for
as you
triggering
well
hype
know, dozens of House progressives are saying no, they're not going to vote for your infrastructure deal until you support what we're talking about here, the overall budget bill, which has a lot of the president's agenda, a lot of Democrats' agenda in it. By digging in your heels on this, aren't you dooming your own infrastructure bill?
Who's digging in the heels here? From the first of all, the infrastructure bill has been passed.
What, Dana? Who's digging in the heels, huh? Me? The sole person standing in the way of getting this motherfucker passed? Or every single one of my Democratic colleagues? Sans Kirsten Sinema, and maybe a few other assholes, who are like, yeah, we're going forward and we're going to push through this $3.5 trillion stimulus package. Like, who's in the wrong here? A handful of obstructionist Democrats or the rest of the party? He's a maverick? Oh my god, stop it. Oh no. Oh god, and like, I just like, I have to brace myself for the righteous indignation that we're about to see from this person. Huh. Man, you are really picking on the president? I'm not picking on the president. He's not the— oh, are you joking? Are you joking because he acts like he's the president? Yeah, okay. I was like, what? Your passion speaks volumes of how— that's because I'm born and raised West Virginia. I love West Virginia. I love the people of West Virginia, and I hate that this motherfucker shits all over them all the time. He has failed them. And yeah, I get really fucking pissed off about it because the people deserve better than what they get from this motherfucker.
Okay? You have a bipartisan bill with 19 Republicans. Who thought that would happen? Who thought that? And you know,
Hey,
we
Dave, thank
worked
you
hard on
for
that for many,
resubscribing
many
11
months.
months
And
in a row, those fuckers.
the president's team was very much involved. And the president went out and sold this around the country. Why would you basically let the perfect
How I
beginning
feel
of
about
a bill?
Texas?
You have a bill right
Yeah.
now. I'm not saying we're not going to get to a
It
reconciliation
hits
bill
home.
whenever.
It's personal.
But they
I'm
have
just saying the
leverage.
urgency now.
I guess they have
If they can go
leverage.
home and tell.
Just like you have leverage. They're using their leverage, the House progressives, just like you are.
That's fine. And if they can go home and tell people that,
sorry
hey,
you have to deal with
I don't
them.
care about the roads and bridges, you don't need it.
I don't deal with
care
them.
about internet
Like, I don't
service,
live in
you
West
don't need
Virginia
that.
anymore.
I don't care about fixing water and sewer lines. I don't care about the hard infrastructure that's deferred for the last.
The freedom is the freedom is the big responsibility. If you want to be free, you have to be ready to take responsibility for your own life and not to look for somebody else. Please, to be responsible for your life, and if yes, to be ready to comply and practice in submission. What? To be ready to comply and practice in submission? What do you mean practice in submission? What? How do you start this with, this is all about freedom, and if you're ready to be free, be ready to submit? But you literally just... Are you joking? The only way to achieve freedom is to submit to the corporate overlords. Submission is freedom? Literally George Orwell, 1984? Oh no. Seriously? Submission freedom. Freedom is when submission. Freedom is when submission. Are you serious? Bow if you want. I mean, seriously. You have to be
30 years. I don't care about any of that. I can't go home and say that in West Virginia. We need all that. We have the worst bridges in the country.
Do you take this threat seriously by the progressives?
They'll have to do what they have to do. I mean, I'm not involved with the House and the House rules or any of that. Okay, they're going to do what they think is best. And if they play politics with the needs of America, I can tell you, America will recoil.
And they say you're playing politics.
America will recoil?
I don't think so.
No,
But the bottom line is, if it's such a good
corporate
politics and they
overlords
think
will recoil.
3.5 trillion, why are they rushing it now? Why don't they use that for a political?
All right,
Use
let's
that
talk
next year
about
when
what's
on the
in.
campaign trail
Let's
and say, elect for me, and we'll spend 3.5.
Let's talk about some of the specifics, because I want to get to the substance of what we're talking about here, because I don't think that gets enough attention. What President Biden and the Democrats say is the child tax credit, which has been expanded, make it permanent. They're saying it's already having a major impact on poverty and hunger for children. Do you support making it permanent?
Well, I support child tax credits. I sure am trying to help
But the
children.
expansion that
Let's
is...
talk about this before you start saying, is it going to be permanent, this and that?
Yeah.
Let's see how we're doing.
I can't stand him. I can't stand him. I can't stand him. Hey, Joe Manchin, this child tax credit has been proven to assist working class families, to pull them out of poverty. And he is like, well, let's hold on for a second. We don't want to offer too many tax breaks to poor working class families. I mean, do we really want to assist with the uplifting of all working class families to get them out of the poverty threshold here? Don't twist my words. Freedom is the ability to take responsibility, and if you are looking to take responsibility for your actions by someone else, be ready to execute orders from those who you may rely on. So, you think that by relying on government subsidy programs... Hello from West Virginia. Hello, Serge. Yeah. Hi, fellow West Virginia. I was going to cook dinner, but that was one hell of a word sound. Sounds fascist as fuck. I just don't understand how you can think that you will achieve freedom by taking on responsibilities that require you to go all in. When the real issue here is that people work themselves into the ground. and they are still in debt, and they're still meeting the poverty threshold. And it's not that they're lazy, it's that the cost of living has risen so much that even with one full-time job and another job through the gig economy, people are unable to make ends meet. And that forces them to rely on additional government program. Here's a good example. Both McDonald's and Walmart, depending on where you are employed, if you are in a really expensive urban area, then these employers will assist you with the process of applying for government programs like food stamps, WIC, other programs that are offered through our very inadequate welfare state, because they know that they do not pay their workers an adequate wage to be able to cover all of their expenses. They help the workers apply for welfare whenever they hire a new person. So how are you going to advocate for a system that knows that they are grossly underpaying their workers to the point where they rely on the welfare state for their workers to make up for what they are not receiving from inadequate wages, from working? They are employed. They are not cutting corners. They go to work every day. They work 40 plus hours a week. What do you mean? We're not just talking about, a propensity to be fucking lazy. We're talking about real disparities here. We're talking about real wealth inequality. We're talking about grossly underfunded pay. How is that in your mind? Low-wage workers doing something wrong. Like, what have they done that is not taking responsibility for themselves and their families? What have they done? What have they done wrong other than maybe not get a good education? Or maybe not have the opportunity to find a better paying job? How can you blame it on them? What have they done wrong? Answer me that. Seriously.
And let's make sure that we're getting it to the right people. Let's make sure the people on poverty. I can tell you, people that are working and working poor, making every effort they can to get ahead in life, that's in that 50,000 and below. I've got people that making combined 200 and 300 and more up to 400, saying they're getting checks. If we have X amount
But
of
it's on a
dollars,
sliding scale. They shouldn't be doing that.
well, it's happening, though. This is happening
There's
because
a
of the sliding
horrible
scale. It's 75 and 150 with a sliding fee up to 400. Okay? These are things that there's hard caps to be put. The need base, we're not having anything.
I hate that because he's pretty much saying we should have means tested the government check program. We should have means tested this so that we weren't giving $1,200 checks to those who were, right on the edge of the cutoff. If they were a single individual and they were making $70,000 a year, and they didn't need it. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the need to implement means tested programming so that we're not overshooting our budget when it comes to offering upward social mobility to our American working class. God. If it helps working families, who cares? We don't want to help every working family, though, do we? We don't want to make life too easy on them, do we? Pretty much what he's saying.
About need-based. We're not doing any type of that. And first of all, child tax credits. Think about this. If it's child tax credit, you want to help the children and the parents that are basically providing for those children. There's no work requirements whatsoever. There's no education requirements whatsoever for better skill sets. Don't you think if we're going to help the children that the people should make some effort?
So let's...
Thank you, Dragon Princess, for the 100 biddies. There's no system that hurts you, really. You hurt yourself and others, and it's a good thing because of the system. What's a good thing because of the system? What do you mean you hurt yourself and others? Manchin's like a hop, a skip, and a jump away. I'm mocking Jay. Oh, okay, so he didn't say that. Manchin's literally like a hop, skip, and a jump away from calling people welfare queens. Like, dusting off the old Reagan term, calling people fucking welfare queens.
Let's talk about universal pre-K. West Virginia, your home
I've
state.
been all for that. I'm all in.
You want to make it a federal
Well,
program.
it's fine to be federal, but the states can do it too, and the states have a
But
responsibility.
should
the
universal
federals-
pre-K be in a bill like this
I
that
don't
you
have
would
a
support?
problem because I support universal pre-K.
Okay, what about increasing funding for home care services for the sick and
We have
elderly?
$60 billion hanging on out the door yet. $60 billion. The only thing I'm saying is, why urgency to spend another $300 billion towards that when you
Yeah,
got
he's a
$60 billion
Democratic
hasn't
name
gone
only
out?
for sure.
Don't you think we ought to find out what happened? Why are we not able to get into that type of a chain to where we're able to make sure that the administration is able to disperse the money that get it to where it needs to be helped?
Clean energy provisions
Thank you,
that are in this bill.
Ancient
they
Gamer,
would
for
use tax
resubscribing 10 months in a row.
incentives and carbon capture technology to try to cut emissions in half and make the electric grid 80% clean energy by 2030. Do you support that?
Let me tell you this. Let's look at where we've come for the last 20 years. In 2000,
Remember, Joe Manchin has received a substantial amount of money from fossil fuel industries and lobbyists. So I just want to preface whatever Joe Manchin is about to say with the fact that he is the recipient of so much campaign contribution money from the very industries, from this very harmful sector that is directly responsible for moving us closer and closer to climate change related catastrophe.
Year 2000, 52% of our electricity came from coal. Only about 16% came from natural gas, and only about 9.5% came from renewables. 20 years to date. Okay, 2020, 19% from coal, 40% from natural gas, and up to 20% for renewables. The transition is happening. Now they're wanting to pay companies to do what they're already doing. Makes no sense to me at all for us to take billions of dollars and pay utilities for what they're going to do as the market transitions. We've proven that, and we will continue to transition. They're accelerating something that could be very, very vulnerable to the reliability
So
of
it
this
sounds like a
country
no.
needs.
You don't support the
Makes
provisions.
no sense at all.
Okay.
Makes no sense.
I'm sure you've heard your fellow Democrat, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said this about you in a tweet. Manchin has weekly huddles with Exxon and is one of many senators who gives lobbyists their pen to write so-called bipartisan fossil fuels bills.
Ooh, getting a little confrontational. It's his daughter, Heather Bresch, the EpiPen pirate. Oh, man. This is good.
It's killing people. Sick of this bipartisan corruption that masquerades as clear-eyed moderation.
What do you have
your
to say
fellow
about that, Joe
Democrat.
Manchin?
Well,
Is it true that you have weekly meetings with
Absolutely
Exxon
not.
and other
absolutely
lobbyists
not. You
for
ask
fossil
them if they've
fuel?
ever. No, they don't. Weekly meetings. I don't.
It's just false.
I keep my door open for everybody. It's totally false.
Oh, he's like, I might be meeting with fossil fuel lobbyists every fucking week, but I keep my door open that anybody can come in and request to speak to me, and I'll politely say no, but what the fuck?
And those type of superlatives, it's just awful. Continue to divide. I don't know the young lady that well. I really don't. I've met her one time, I think, between sets here, but that's it. So we have not had any conversations. She's just speculating and saying things because she wants to.
She's not the only one. I'm sure you've heard. There are a number of your fellow Democrats who say that you're opposed to this because you're bought and paid for by
I'm opposed to it
corporate
because
donors.
it makes no sense at all. I just gave you the facts. I've said this: you're entitled to your own facts. I mean, your own opinions. You're just not entitled to create your own facts to support it. And that's exactly what they're doing.
He's
the facts
freaking
I've
out,
given you
dude.
is the transition's happening. Reliability. Look what happened in Texas. It was natural gas that basically shut down in Texas that caused all that horrible carnage to people. It was awful.
You have said pause. What the Senate wants to do is get this worked out by this week so that the House can vote on it September 27th. Is that a timeline that you can support in any way?
There's no way we can get this done by the 27th. If we do our job, there's so much differences that we have here, and there's so much
Hi, Streaming Empire,
apart
thank you.
from us where we are as far as I'm giving you different things. I've been talking. I'm working with people. I'm willing to talk to people. It makes no sense at all.
Real quick on another topic, because I've been traveling, working on a project on voting. I've been to Georgia and Texas and Arizona. Every Democrat I talk to there say that they need the federal government to act, you to help find a way to get a federal voting rights bill passed. I know you've been working on it this summer.
I can.
Where are you?
Well, we've got Lisa Murkowski who's been working with me. We've been talking to quite a few different Republicans who are very interested in doing something that makes sense. Voting, and basically the security of voting, is the bedrock of our democracy. And if you're not have access to the voting vote, if it's not secured, and if the count is not accurate, then people have no
Thank
confidence.
you,
And
exact.
right now,
Thank you for
the last two
subscribing
presidential
with your
elections,
Prime. Hey, we got a National
when it was
Aquarius
over
W in the world. Thank you so much.
for
Please.
President Trump or President Biden, there's over 40 billion people 40 million that didn't believe it was accurate. That's wrong. And if you're going to do something in a partisan way, they said, "Oh, just double down, get rid of the filibuster. Let's do it partisan." It'll divide.
Do you think you'll get this done before the next midterms? Before the midterms?
Oh, I do.
Break hair. I've never seen somebody string together some words without making a single discernible point. What are you saying?
I definitely believe we can if we work hard. Getting rid of things is the easy thing to do. Saying I don't want to filibuster, that's easy. That's easy. The hard work comes is when you try to sit down and work through this. Who'd have thought we'd have had 19? 19 Republicans vote for a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Who'd have thought that? Look at all the things that we've been able to do because we're working through it. And there's about 20.
Critical thinking is beyond of acceptance on a daily basis. He is the spawn of bird. Yup. Critical thinking is the please just say hello mother mushroom. Okay, bye.
Two of us, 11 Ds and 11 Rs. We continue to meet continuously. We've built relationships. Ask some of the senators
like
who are
a
telling
bird.
you, or some of
They're
the
talking
Congress
about-
people are telling you how.
I think that he's a spawn of Robert C. Byrd. One of the oldest senators who served the longest term from West Virginia. Real piece of work. I don't know, that's
How bad the other side. Ask them the last time they sit down, had a cup of coffee, had a conversation.
everything in West
maybe
Virginia
had
is
dinner,
named after him.
know what the spouse's name is, know how many children they have. Ask them. Are they working hard enough? Or are they just basically hunkered down in their own position and defending it? And that's when you're said you're entitled to your opinion. You just can't create your own facts or make your own statements that aren't accurate.
Senator Joe Manchin, thank you so much for your time this morning. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Dan.
it.
Appreciate being with you.
ABC3 style is like the people who look gray hair. Huh? My style is like what? It's like the people who look gray hair? Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry for the pain.